The British Empire was one of the largest and most influential empires in world history, spanning continents and shaping global events for over 3 centuries. Its rise, expansion, and eventual decline reflect a complex mix of ambition, exploration, commerce, diplomacy, and adaptation. This is the story of the British Empire, how it evolved from a small island nation into a global powerhouse, and how it eventually came to an end, shaped by the shifting tides of history. The British Empire had modest beginnings. In the late 16th century, England was a relatively minor European power, overshadowed by Spain, Portugal, and France. The seeds of the empire were sown during the reign of Queen Elizabeth IV, 1558–1603, when English explorers like Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh set sail for new lands. These voyages were motivated by a mix of economic opportunity, competition with rival European powers, and a desire to expand English influence. In 1588, England's defeat of the Spanish Armada marked a significant moment in its growing maritime capabilities. Although it would take another century before England could truly challenge the colonial dominance of Spain and Portugal, this victory laid the foundation for future expansion. In this early period, the British Empire was largely a collection of trading outposts and small settlements scattered across the globe. The British Empire began to take shape in the 17th century, with the establishment of the first permanent colony in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Over the next century, Britain expanded its territorial presence in North America, the Caribbean, and India. A key factor in this expansion was the development of a powerful navy and the creation of trading companies like the British East India Company, founded in 1600, which became a significant force in expanding British influence across Asia. The colonies in the Caribbean, such as Barbados and Jamaica, became vital due to the production of sugar, which was a highly valuable commodity. Unfortunately, this trade was supported by systems of forced labor. The transatlantic movement of laborers became an important aspect of the economy during this time. Meanwhile, British influence in India grew, as the East India Company gradually took control over large territories by forming alliances and participating in regional conflicts. By the mid-18th century, Britain had become a major colonial power. The 7 Years' War, 1756–1763, a global conflict between Britain and France, marked a key moment in British history. This war, fought across Europe, North America, and India, ended in a decisive victory for Britain, allowing it to gain significant territories, including Canada from France and Florida from Spain. The Treaty of Paris, 1763, marked the peak of British influence in North America, but this success came with growing tensions. Despite its global strength, the British Empire faced challenges from within. In 1775, tensions between Britain and its 13 American colonies boiled over into the American Revolution. The colonists, increasingly frustrated by British taxation and governance, declared their independence in 1776. After years of conflict, Britain was forced to recognize the United States as an independent nation in 1783, marking the first major loss for the empire. While the loss of the American colonies was a significant setback, it did not mark the end of British imperial ambitions. Instead, Britain turned its focus to expanding its influence in Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. The British East India Company continued to consolidate power in India, setting the stage for what would later become direct British rule over the subcontinent. India was often referred to as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire due to its immense economic and strategic importance. By the early 19th century, the British East India Company had gained control over large parts of India through diplomatic and military means. This control allowed Britain to access a wealth of resources, including tea, cotton, and spices, which became central to the empire's economic success. However, British control in India faced significant challenges. In 1857, a major uprising, known as the Indian Rebellion, occurred as a result of growing resentment toward British policies. While the rebellion was eventually suppressed, it led to the dissolution of the East India Company's rule. In 1858, the British government officially took control, establishing direct rule over India under what became known as the British Raj, which lasted until India gained independence in 1947. Under the Raj, India played a central role in the empire's global economy and military power. Indian soldiers participated in numerous British military campaigns around the world. However, British rule also led to economic exploitation, with policies that sometimes exacerbated poverty and famine, fueling growing calls for independence. As Britain consolidated its control in India, it turned its attention to Africa in the late 19th century. The scramble for Africa saw European powers rapidly colonizing the continent. Britain emerged as a dominant force, establishing colonies in Egypt, Sudan, South Africa, and Nigeria. These colonies were valuable sources of natural resources like gold, diamonds, and rubber, which fueled the industrial growth of the British economy. British expansion in Africa was led by figures like Cecil Rhodes, who envisioned British control stretching across the continent. Rhodes played a key role in the colonization of southern Africa, particularly in present-day Zimbabwe, which was once known as Rhodesia. His legacy remains controversial due to his role in policies that would later influence the segregationist systems of government in southern Africa. By the early 20th century, the British Empire was at its zenith, controlling about a quarter of the world's landmass and population. This vast empire stretched from Canada and the Caribbean to India, Australia, and large parts of Africa. Britain's global influence was not just political, but also economic, with British companies and industries dominating global trade. World War I, 1914-1918, was a significant moment for the empire. Britain relied heavily on resources and manpower from its colonies, with soldiers from India, Africa, and the Dominions, such as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, playing key roles in the war. However, the war also exposed the growing strains within the empire as the costs of maintaining such a vast network of territories became apparent. World War II, 1939-1945, marked the beginning of the end for the British Empire. The war left Britain economically weakened, and the country struggled to maintain control over its global territories. After the war, nationalist movements in colonies like India and African nations gained momentum, driven by calls for independence and self-determination. In 1947, India achieved independence, marking a key turning point in the dissolution of the British Empire. Over the next 2 decades, Britain granted independence to most of its colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. By the 1960s, the empire had largely been dismantled, replaced by a group of former colonies that formed the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of countries that maintain cultural and historical ties with Britain, but are politically independent. The British Empire's legacy is both far-reaching and complex. It left a lasting impact on global politics, economics, and culture, with the English language becoming the dominant global language, and British legal, educational, and political systems adopted in many former colonies. However, the empire's history also includes aspects of economic exploitation, social inequalities, and political domination that continue to shape many of the countries it once controlled. The story of the British Empire is one of extraordinary influence, but also of profound challenges and transformations. Its impact continues to be felt around the world today, long after the formal end of the empire itself.